Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am currently on a 2-night cruise out of Palm Beach, Florida, on board Margaritaville at sea. Now before I took this cruise, I had no idea what to expect from a food point of view on board. And what I will tell you right now is that I've been very surprised. Whether that's positive or negative, you're going to have to wait to find out. But in this video today, I am going to take you on a full dining tour of Paradise, which is Margaritaville at Sea's first cruise ship. I'm excited to show you around. If you find this video useful, it would be amazing if you jump down below and give it a thumbs up. And while you're there, why not join me on the adventure and let me show you so many more cruise ships. All you have to do is click subscribe, which you can do directly underneath. But look, that's enough out here. Let's get on board and let me show you around the ship. As far as cruise ships go, this one is pretty old. In fact, she's the same age as me. But why is that relevant? Well, over the years, I've cruised on a whole number of cruise ships. Some are the much newer, bigger cruise ships, but I've also cruised on the much smaller, more traditional ships. But I've never been on one as old as Paradise. What I expected to find on board didn't match what I actually found on board, and I wanted to put this video together to hopefully manage your expectations to help you plan for what you can expect from a dining point of view if you are hoping to cruise on board Margaritaville at sea. Up first, let's talk about what meal times exist on board a Margaritaville at sea cruise. Up first, you will start the day with breakfast. That will then be followed by lunch. There's then a dinner service, and then the day will close with late night snacks. Throughout this video, I'm going to take you on a journey through each of those meal times and present to you which venues you could dine in when, and also show you the food that I enjoyed at each of those venues during my cruise. Up first, let's get started with breakfast. The first venue that we want to look at here is the Port of Indecision buffet, which you'll find up on deck 10 towards the back of the ship. This place is open for continental breakfasts from 6 AM till 7 AM, and then the main breakfast service from 7 AM until 10:30 AM. It's worth noting that this is the only included breakfast place on board. In other words, the only breakfast place where you don't pay extra for. This is important because due to the setup of the room and the number of passengers that can sail on this ship, it can get busy when everyone's trying to get their food during the morning rush hour. One observation that I would make is that I found the buffet to be surprisingly bright. I say surprisingly bright because most of the seats actually look directly onto the side of the lifeboats, and so I expected it to be quite dark in here. I'm also really surprised that I am not at all offended by all of the bright green colour scheme in here. I didn't think I would like that at all, but it kind of works. They've also done some clever things with installing higher windows above the food service area, for example, which allow more light to pour into the room. This proved really useful with making the buffet venue feel a lot more open than it actually was during those peak rush hour windows. I'll show you more of the food from this buffet later in this video, because I actually opted to eat both of the breakfasts on my short cruise in the venue that I'm going to tell you about next. Let's move on to talk about the JWB Prime Steakhouse, which is the additional charge breakfast option that's available. This place serves primarily as the onboard steakhouse, and you'll find it open for dinner, but more on this later. But it's open also for breakfast. At the point of recording this video, for $19 US, yes, $19 US, you can enjoy your breakfast with unlimited bellinis, mimosas, or Bloody Mary cocktails. Let's pause on that for a second, because I think to get your breakfast plus unlimited of those drinks for $19 is really, really good value. I found this venue to be much nicer than the buffet that we've just been in, and you'll find it open from 7 AM till 9 AM, even on disembarkation day. I found the food in here to be of a much higher quality than I'd expected given the overall price of my cruise. I perhaps naively expected it to feel really quite low budget, but instead I found breakfast food that would easily rival what I've eaten previously with some of the hugely popular cruise lines out there. So a massive well done, Margaritaville at sea. If you don't want to actually go to a dining venue to eat your breakfast, then you do have the option of room service. This comes at an additional charge. You don't get some included items like on other cruise lines, nor is it charged on a tray charge basis. You'll pay per item to use this service, with the prices, in my opinion, being quite high. For example, for a main course, you should expect to pay about $7 each. It's then $3 for pastries and between $8 and $12 for a cocktail. There isn't a charge on the menu for things like fruit juices or coffee, but I didn't test during my cruise if I could get those things delivered without ordering food, because with this ship being the size it is, I was never too far from the coffee machine at any point in time. Moving on from breakfast, let's now think about lunch on board. For this meal, we've got two venues to discuss: the Port of Indecision buffet, which we've already been to, and the Cheeseburger in Paradise Burger Bar. I bet you can't guess what those guys are offering. Anyway, let's get started in the buffet. At lunchtime, this place is open from 12 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. So it's quite a long time for a lunch service. I've been on ships with a much shorter window for lunch, so it's good to have a full 3.5 hour window here, especially if you've opted to enjoy a later breakfast. I found the food on offer in here to be of a much wider variety than I've seen on so many other YouTube reviews. You could opt for salad from a salad bar, there was a nachos and tacos counter, a pizza and hot dog counter, a panini grill where you could get your own toasted sandwich, a pasta station where they cook all the pasta fresh in front of you. Massive thumbs up from me on this one. And also a full dessert bar. One thing that I really liked about this buffet was the fact that Margaritaville at Sea offers free unlimited soft serve ice cream. And this machine is manned by a member of the crew. What this means is that you don't have to pay any extra for soft serve ice cream, and those that have followed my channel for a while will know by now that this is right up my street. The fact that that machine is manned by a member of the crew simply means that it doesn't get messy and dirty when your fellow cruisers are trying to get their ice cream in the pot, but it doesn't want to go. Directly outside the buffet, right at the very back of the ship, is where you'll find the other included lunchtime venue, the Cheeseburger in Paradise Burger Bar. Yes, you guessed it. Out here, you're getting burgers, you're getting fries, and there's also a little salad bar here too. As far as burgers go on cruise ships, these ones were pretty good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the quality of them was the highest I've ever seen on a ship, but this venue does exactly what it says on the tin, and it does it pretty well. If you want a burger and chips, come up here, and you'll probably leave pretty happy. In terms of hours, you're going to find this place opening at 12 noon and closing at 6 p.m, so there is no excuse for you to turn up to your dinner table really hungry. Let's move on to talk about the main event of the day: dinner. For dinner on a Margaritaville at Sea cruise on Paradise, you've got four options. Up first, the buffet is open from 6 p.m. until 9:30 p.m, with a separate panini grill being open longer until 11 p.m. The range in here is exactly what you'd expect from dinner time on a cruise ship. I'll show you some images on the screen now to give you a feel for what it looked like. But again, I was really impressed with the offering here, considering what I'd paid for my cruise. Now, let's be really honest. Does the buffet here rival the likes of the Windjammer on a Royal Caribbean Oasis class cruise ship? No, it obviously doesn't, but you have to remember that's not what Margaritaville at Sea are trying to target. But I'll come back to this when I close off at the end of this video. If you'd rather, like me, go for a sit-down meal that's served to you, then you'll want to head to the main dining room on board. Interestingly, the main dining room isn't actually open for any other meals, but then what can you expect when you're paying this sort of money for your cruise? Finn's Dining opens for the first seating at 5:45 p.m. and the second seating at 8 p.m. So make sure to check what dining slot you're booked onto as soon as you get onto the ship. I'll show you a menu now as an example, followed by some of the food that I was served in here. You might be detecting a theme here, but again, I was really impressed with what I saw. From a comparison point of view, I paid for this cruise about $20 less per night than I did for a recent Carnival cruise, and so I'd consider this to be a pretty fair comparison. I'd definitely say that what I ate in the main dining room on board Paradise was of better quality and better portions than what I had when I cruised with Carnival. From an environment point of view, the dining room is nice. The only strange thing about this place is that the specialty dining venue, which is the steakhouse, is essentially part of that main dining room. It's just fenced off at one end of the room using dividers. I've never ever seen that on a cruise ship before, but I guess this is an older ship, it's a smaller ship, so they don't have as much flexibility to create new venues as what they do on the newer, bigger ships. The next venue to talk about for dinner is the JWB Prime Steakhouse, which I ate in for both of my breakfasts on my cruise. I didn't eat dinner in here, but if you'd like to, it comes at quite a high price point. During my sailing, to have dinner in here would be about $50 additional onto your fare, which I felt as though that was quite a high price point versus what I would get in a $50 upcharge restaurant on another cruise line. That said, it would cost way more than that to eat at a good quality steakhouse on land. So maybe when cruising with Margaritaville at sea on a short cruise, I need to adjust my mindset to think about how much I'd be paying on land versus how much I'd be paying on another cruise ship if I was on for a week. Let me know in the comments what you think, but I thought $50 for a meal was quite expensive. The final option you've got for dinner, or a late snack afterwards, is the pizzeria. The pizzeria is called the Frank and Lola's Pizzeria, and over all the cruises I've taken, I've been on a bit of a crusade to discover which cruise line out there has the best pizza. And I can tell you now, on Margaritaville at sea, it's pretty good. This place opens at 5 p.m. on embarkation day and 4 p.m. on the other days of your cruise. It closes at 2 a.m., so you've got plenty of time to try it. It's not included, so you will need to pay extra to have a pizza here, about $12 to $15. But I'd say they were worth it because honestly, it was absolutely delicious. From an ambience point of view, the pizzeria is really nice. It's in a quiet part of the ship on deck number 9, and what makes it quiet is that it shares a part of the ship with the Margaritaville coffee shop. Although the coffee shop is open until midnight, it really doesn't attract much of a rowdy clientele at all, because I guess they're all elsewhere around the ship enjoying the bars. If you'd prefer to stay in your cabin for dinner, then you absolutely can do that by taking advantage of the room service menu that we spoke about earlier. On this menu, you could order things like pizza for about $12, a cheeseburger, again $12, a salmon burger for $14, and you could polish all of that off with a dessert for $5. Similarly to breakfast, prices for room service at dinner are charged per item rather than a tray charge, so I do think it works out quite expensive to order this way. Finally, let's think about late night snacks. You know the feeling? You've been dancing maybe a little too hard in one of those bars, or you've been propping up the bar a little too hard, and you want a pick me up before you go to bed. Well, let me tell you about the options that you've got available to you on board Paradise. First, you can head up to deck 10 to the buffet, which is open from 11:30 p.m. until half past midnight. Up here, you'll find all of the usual stuff that you'd expect from a late night snacks offering on a cruise ship. Otherwise, it's room service, and you'll be able to order what you want by picking up the phone in your cabin, and that menu then closes at 3 o'clock in the morning. So that's the venues. The final thing I'd like to talk about in this video today is the overall quality of the food that I had during my time on board. There are some parts of this ship that need to be invested in. Yes, I'm talking about parts of the pool deck, parts of the internal corridors, and a few other places. However, from a food point of view, I genuinely would say that Margaritaville at Sea are smashing it with their current food offering. I found the crew in the food service areas to be absolutely brilliant, and I found the food to be a really good quality, and portion size was great. At no point did I leave a dining room disappointed, and at no point did I leave a dining room hungry, which is something that I cannot say for all of their competitor cruise lines. Does the food on here rival Royal Caribbean, Celebrity Cruises, and some of the other huge brands out there? In some areas, maybe, but generally speaking, no. But that's okay. These guys aren't trying to compete in the 7 night cruise market. They're aiming to offer really good value short cruising in the Bahamas on this ship. And I'd say that based on the experience I had on Paradise on this trip, from a food point of view, they're certainly doing that. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video today, understanding a little bit more about the food offering on board Paradise, which was the first cruise ship launched by Margaritaville at sea. At the point of recording this video, Islander, which was Margaritaville's second cruise ship, has now launched and is operating out of Tampa. So I will be really intrigued to see how things might change from a product point of view on board Paradise once learnings from Islander are known. If you have enjoyed this video, it would be great if you would jump down below and give it a thumbs up. And while you're there, it would also be amazing if you'd support my channel by clicking the subscribe button, because that massively helps my content to reach more people. If you'd like to see more from my time on board Margaritaville, then why not join me in this video? In this one, we're leaving the topic of food behind and we are talking cabins. I'm going to give you full tours of an inside cabin, an ocean view cabin, and also 2 suite grade cabins. I'll see you over there.